Well, I'm available to start at right tackle.
You can't see when I have clothes on.
All right. Well, there's not an even playing field. There's never been an even playing field. There never will be an even playing field.
What shampoo do you use on your hair?
You don't need to be Superman to play in this offense.
You're listening to The Red Zone. Welcome, Badgers fans, to another episode of The Red Zone. I'm your host, Jason Galloway. Here in a minute, we're going to bring on fellow State Journaler Jim Polzin to talk about the Northwestern loss and kind of what went wrong for the Badgers last weekend and really what's been wrong with Wisconsin this entire season. And then we're going to talk with Kendric Pryor about Jack Coan's first start and what the Badgers have to do to kind of win their way back into the Big Ten West race here. But first, let's go ahead and get to our interview with Jim. And we're here again with Jim Polzin, also from the State Journal. How you doing, Jim?
Good, how are you? Good.
So you were in attendance with me for the debacle that was the Badgers' 31-17 loss at Northwestern. What's just kind of your biggest takeaways to start off? I think everyone kind of thought this could be a loss. I mean, that if they went there and didn't play their best, that they were capable of losing this game. But the way it happened, I think, getting down by 21 points in the fourth quarter was just bad all the way around.
Yeah, again, I think we knew this going in, but this is a team with multiple problems. I know people want to harp on the quarterback, and there's definitely criticism to be made there, but it's a team that has issues in multiple areas, and we saw that because that's not by any means a great Northwestern team. I think that kind of shows the Big Ten West and how weak it is that's your team that kind of controls its destiny right now in Northwestern, because they have a lot of holes too. So it's depressing probably if you're a UW fan, because you came into the season with all these expectations, and week by week it just hasn't gotten any better.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Northwestern team that last two times out, a 3-point win at Rutgers, and then a game they really should have lost to Nebraska when they were still winless. They had to drive 99 yards to force overtime, and so you're right, for them to, and Northwestern's done what they needed to do. I guess they've won these games, and they almost beat Michigan to start off conference play, and they've only got one loss in the conference. But yeah, I mean, at this point, we were talking about on the drive home, it's Wisconsin, there's 4 games to go and they're only 1 game back, but it's just really hard to find a path for them to win the division again. It's Northwestern, you basically have to have them lose 2 more games, and I think they've played 1 more conference game than everybody else, because they have Notre Dame this week, and so they've got to lose 2 of their last 3 for you to really have a chance. But I mean, do you think there's any way that they can get back in this? Or?
I think the biggest issue is 2 weeks ago, I kind of looked at this Wisconsin team like the pieces are there somewhere, and if they can get things to click, you can kind of see them improving and getting better, and maybe they can make a run here. But now I don't even see that. I'm ignoring all the possibilities of what they need to have happen, because the bottom line is they have to keep winning, and they have some really tough road games coming up. I don't know. I don't see a path to the Big Ten West title, because I don't see Wisconsin doing its part. It's a flawed team right now, and I don't, things are not getting any better. In fact, probably week by week they're getting a little worse.
Yeah, I think from your point there, I would agree with you that, I think that I would say it's more likely, or I'd say less likely for Wisconsin to actually win out to give themselves a chance than for Northwestern to lose 2 of them. I mean, I could see Northwestern losing 2 of their last 3 games. They're a team capable of putting out a stinker. They could lose to Minnesota, but I just can't imagine a possibility where Wisconsin goes to Penn State and wins that game,
right?
And then Purdue after that too,
right?
So yeah, I think at this point it's extremely unlikely, and you have to wonder if they're looking at it like that too. They're going to say all the right things about staying motivated and things, but I mean, I don't know if I haven't been around this team too long. I mean, I don't know if there's been another situation like this where they've kind of been in no man's land the last few weeks and have kind of let things drop off or not.
Yeah, I was talking about someone else a couple weeks ago. The one season this reminds me of a little bit, and not to the same degree, but in 2008 they were coming off I believe a 9-4 season. They had a lot of guys who were headed towards the NFL draft. Just a lot of talent on that team, and they really flamed out. I think they went 7-6. It was not a good team, and the divisions were different back then, so I don't remember how it kind of played out down the stretch in terms of motivation, but just in terms of expectations and then not living up to those expectations, that kind of reminds me of that. And, you still look at this team, there's a lot of good guys and good leaders, and so I think that's not an issue. I don't think they're going to have selfishness creep in, but yeah, they got to be shell-shocked. I don't know what other way to describe it, because they came into this season and, people can say, oh, the expectations from the outside were too big. Well, the expectations on the inside were pretty big, and you know that. I mean, you talk to people, and they had, they saw a path to the playoff, kind of like a lot of us, did, that if things fell right. But, in retrospect, probably, I think, I'll just speak from personal experiences. The one mistake I made is that assuming that even though they had so many holes to fill on defense, that would be an issue, that there would just be someone there. Because it's always happened the last couple of years that they've always had guys that haven't played a ton and just filled in and were pretty solid starters, and that hasn't happened. I mean, there's a lot of holes defensively. There's a hole at quarterback. And, the receivers, I don't think, have stepped up the way we thought maybe they would. I wrote that story in camp that this was one of the best groups, even without Quintez Cephas. And they've been kind of quiet, and maybe some of that falls on the quarterback too. So I don't know. We can go up and down the list position-wise and just find a lot of holes.
Yeah. I talked a little bit about this last week with Zach, but Heilprin, but I was going to ask you that too. Basically what you brought up is that maybe we should have maybe not seen this coming, but the fact that Caden Lyles was a guy that's just had switched from offensive line and was suddenly taking all the first-team reps from the first day of camp. Like, maybe we should have, seen a little bit more of a drop-off defensively coming than maybe we anticipated. And I think we just got kind of spoiled by some of the outside linebacker depth that they've had, too. I mean, since Joe Schobert was here, it's just been NFL guy after NFL guy. And you just kind of, you can't assume that the next NFL guy is going to come through. And, we kind of, Andrew Van Ginkel showed a lot toward the end of last year, but I also think that, I think we just kind of assume they could plug new guys in there, and a new position coach at that spot too. I mean, that kind of changes things as well.
Yeah. I mean, you look at that defense, and I think the injuries to Loudermilk and Garrett Rand are huge in retrospect. And I think we all kind of thought those were significant developments, but that, Caden Lyles and, those guys had time to kind of grow into their role, and, it's going to take more than 2 or 3 months or 5 or 6 games for those guys to become consistent players. I mean, I think they miss Chikwe and Alec James and Connor Sheehy. Those guys, I mean, they really, really missed those guys because they were just, they weren't all Big Ten performers by any means, but they were just solid guys, and they kept blockers occupied and kind of let the linebackers kind of have their space and time to do stuff. And that just hasn't happened this year. It's easier, I think, to scheme against Wisconsin's defense because there are legitimate weaknesses.
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget about Rand because he's been gone for so long. But when you take a look at this kind of back in the spring, you thought it was going to be Rand, Loudermilk, Sangapolo as your starting defensive line. It looks a lot different from where they are now, with Loudermilk also having injury issues. And I think it's just one of those things where you can't expect to have depth at every position heading into a season unless you're, Alabama or something like that, where they've recruited 5-star after 5-star. And it just seems like they've had some injuries at the wrong positions this year, with defensive line and then in the secondary as well. Just a couple places where they couldn't afford to lose some guys, and it's just kind of changed the whole outlook of the defense.
Yeah, really. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you can have injuries and still survive, but you probably can't have injuries at the same position and expect to survive, and that's what they've had. Yeah.
And what were your impressions of Jack Coan? We haven't talked about him yet because Alex Hornibrook is still questionable this week. I mean, we'll see if Coan has to play again this season, but I kind of felt like he had moments where he was, kind of putting the ball on target and doing some good things, but obviously the fumble was bad and kind of put the game away, and a couple instances where he was just a little off.
Yeah, he throws a nice ball, and we knew that, right? And his release, his ability to put the ball in spots. I think, I don't think there's ever been a debate that he's a better looking passer than Alex Hornibrook, right? I mean, there's never really been
at least like a bigger arm.
Right, quicker release, and that proved to be true. I thought he had some really nice passes, but there's more to the quarterback position, and that's kind of what the back and forth has been this whole entire time, is that you need to do a lot of other things well to be the quarterback you can trust. And I think we saw that. Like, Alex Hornibrook has done a really good job of, not fumbling on simple things like hands-off, right? And I just thought the timing was a little off with Coan, and I'm sure there were nerves, I'm sure nerves played a huge role. And let's face it, he hasn't even played this year at all. I think that was another big factor, is he had played last year, but he's never played in a meaningful situation, and especially this year. And so I think there was just some growing pains that he went through in a big game on the road. And another thing is, you can fumble a snap and recover it, a teammate recovers it, you recover it, and you can kind of live another snap and can make up for it. But fumbling and losing it at the 15-yard line, and fumbling, a bad exchange with Taylor and losing it in your own territory too, those things happen. And then again, the other team capitalizes on it, and it's magnified. Those mistakes are magnified. So he's got, I think there's promise there. I don't walk away from it saying the kid's never going to be able to play here. I thought I saw enough, but he just clearly needs reps. And I maintain, I said it last week, and I know I'm not the only one, I think Hornibrook gives you the better chance to win. And that's what we had to trust Paul Chryst with all along. Like, he sees these guys every day in practice. He's seen them through 2 springs and 2 fall camps. He knows better than anybody. He's got more info to deal with than the rest of us. If he thinks Alex Hornibrook's the better option to get them the ability to win, then you kind of have to have faith that this guy knows a lot about quarterbacks. So I don't expect, if Hornibrook's healthy, I'm sure he'll be it'll go right back to the way it was.
Well, if you talk to some fans, Chryst should just be gone after that game.
Man, that's the thing. Like, I don't get that at all. I just the people jumping off the ledge and forgetting the fact that he's, this was a 13-1 team 9 months ago, and he's really done a pretty good job of building it. They got a really good recruiting class coming in next year. He's stabilized this program after the 2-year run that was Gary Anderson. And so what's happened this season, I just think weird things happen, and there's legitimate questions, and I do think, I gave my thumbs down in our little breakout piece the other day, because I did think that there were some really head scratching things that went on. Number one, having to use a timeout before you even snap the ball on the opening play from scrimmage is crazy.
And why they're trying to signal in the first play of the game.
Right, I don't understand that either. And then his ability, or his decision to kick a field goal when you're down 14, try a 51-yard field goal in conditions that weren't great to begin with.
I believe it was only 3rd and 5, right? It wasn't like it was 3rd and 15 or anything like that.
Right, yeah. So I don't know.
Or 4th and 5, sorry.
Yeah. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, at that point, the offense, and this happened at Michigan too. You're in their territory. You've had trouble maintaining drives. I just think if you get in plus territory, you got to take your chances, and especially when you're down 14, and the game's it was late in the 3rd quarter, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean,
it was the 3rd quarter at some point.
Yeah, you got to take your chances, and so I thought that was a real head scratcher, and so I think he deserves criticism, but not to the point where I think he's in danger of losing his job. I think that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, 2 straight top 10 finishes and winning New Year's 6 bowls, and like you said, it's just a weird season. A lot of weird things happen. With the Quintez Cephas stuff before the year, all the injuries they've had in the secondary and the defensive line, and it's just been kind of a strange one. You just kind of have to chalk it up to sort of a lost season at this point. But how many losses do you think?
I mean, I know you and I were talking, and you thought 7-5 was realistic, and I guess that is, right? I mean, and I said this too, of these 3 remaining road games, Northwestern, Purdue, and Penn State, I thought Northwestern on paper would be the quote-unquote easiest of the 3, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically playing in front of a 50-50 fan base, right? There was a lot of red there on Saturday, and certainly from I know there's been weird games down there, and they hadn't had a lot of success, but in terms of environments, it was not a difficult one. So I thought, Purdue's getting a lot better. Purdue's a lot better than they were a month ago. Penn State's always a tough place to play. I mean, Iowa had trouble there the other night. So, yeah, I mean, 7-5 is on the table, and unless this offense clicks the way we thought it once could, and they could put some points on the board in some of these games, then maybe you change the outlook. But I don't know. It's 7-5 is beginning to look realistic.
I don't think they're going to lose to Rutgers.
I don't think they're going to lose to Minnesota, and so I think there's, you're kind of waiting for this team's best game, aren't you? Like,
yeah. Well,
I guess Iowa, in retrospect, looks like a pretty good win right now because Iowa's been playing really good ball, but man, they just haven't. I remember last season, especially I remember walking out of Provo last year. I don't know if you remember this, after they shellacked BYU, and that's not a good BYU team, but Otzi, his comment that day was, wow, I mean, this, you can see it, and this looks like a good team, and kind of all phases looked like a really good team. I haven't left the stadium thinking that at any point this year, that there's just kind of even the early wins were kind of like, like there was something missing there, and that's really caught up with them. We haven't even talked special teams. Their special teams were really bad the other night.
And it's not something you've seen a whole lot from Wisconsin the last few years, but I mean, so many penalties on special teams that knocked out a couple of big returns.
And left them in really bad position. I mean, right before the Coan fumble, that penalty knocks them back inside the 10, and the last place you want a quarterback making a starting debut is to start inside the 10. You want to try to help out with field position as much as possible, but the return game has been just okay. The penalties, as you mentioned,
they switched punters this game. They've had they're I think 13th out of 14 Big Ten teams in punting average this season, or at least they were before this past week. And Gaglianone is as great as he is. Missed a 27-yarder against Illinois.
Yeah.
Obviously missed the kick to tie against BYU. Hasn't really been. I think he's 5 for 8 on the year now. I mean, obviously he missed a 51-yarder against Northwestern. Can't really blame him for missing a 51-yarder, but
right.
There's not really been one, area of the special teams that has been great this season.
No, that's a big difference. I mean, this program, even a program coming off a 13-1 season, this program, if it's going to be good, needs good special teams. There's not enough talent on either side of the ball to overcome poor play on special teams. So, again, it's all three phases. It really is. I mean, the defense you expect a little bit because they're young and inexperienced in a lot of key areas. Offense is a real head scratcher how they've been this inconsistent with this much talent returning, and special teams has been subpar. So it's really, you add it up, and it's no surprise why they are where they are, right?
Yeah, and looking back, you mentioned the Iowa game. And kind of looking back now, I'm kind of just surprised they were able to go to Iowa and win in a primetime game like that. But even then, I remember walking out of the stadium thinking that it still just wasn't a performance where they put everything together, even though they were able to pull it out at the end. I remember thinking defensively, that's the first time I was like, okay, defensively that BYU game wasn't a fluke, because Iowa only had, I think they had less than 50 plays in that game, because Wisconsin was able to hold on to the ball a lot with the jumbo package. And I just remember leaving that game thinking this defense has some serious issues, even though they pulled out that win, and it just hasn't really come together.
Right.
So
strange season.
Yeah, it really is. We'll have to see how it finishes out and what bowl we're going to see them in this year. I mean, assuming they get one more win.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing. Like the TJ Edwards that said that the other day, that I think somebody asked him about goals and stuff like that, and he said kind of the first one every season is you want to get bowl eligible, and that makes sense, that you can only accomplish these goals kind of in order, right? And becoming bowl eligible is the first one. But here we are, this late in the season. I mean, we're going to be to November,
heading into November, and not talking about getting bowl eligible. Right.
That's just kind of how bizarre of a season it is, and considering where they started this season in the rankings. It's been disappointing to say the least.
Yeah. All right, so you can follow Jim on Twitter at Jim Polzin WSJ.
And basketball
season's coming up. It's time to give him a follow. He's our basketball guy here at the State Journal. Exhibition game on Saturday, is it?
Friday night. Oshkosh, the Titans.
So what's going on with the basketball team? They're going to make the tournament.
I mean, I've had a lot of questions like that, and I think they are. I think this is a bounce back season. Now, where they'll finish in the Big Ten, I don't know. I picked them 4th, and I feel pretty confident about that. I just think Dimitri Trice, the return of Dimitri Trice and Kobe King, makes this a deeper lineup, and I really like their top 7, top 8 in this rotation. I think you've got a legitimate star in Ethan Happ. You've got a rising star in Brad Davison. You've got some nice pieces around them. I think I think this is going to be a good team. Now we'll know in the next month because the early schedule is interesting. They play Xavier. They go to the Bahamas and play some good competition down there. NC State. They got Marquette in December. They got the Big Ten opener at Iowa in late November. So we're going to know in about a month how kind of where this team stands.
Yeah, I don't follow the basketball team super closely like you do. Do you think Ethan Happ has a real NBA future? Is he trying to extend his shooting range a little bit?
He is, yeah. I mean, and we'll see if it works. He took a couple shots in the red-white scrimmage from mid-range. I think that's the key. Is last off season he really worked hard on trying to develop a 3-point shot. He kind of skipped the middle part of that. He's really good around the rim.
Yeah.
He didn't really develop a mid-range shot, and he went right to the 3-point shot. I think that was a mistake because I think you kind of have to, again, progress and become a consistent mid-range shooter. And then if you want to prove you're a 3-point shooter, good luck with that. But he just kind of skipped that middle step. It's going to be tough for him to make in the NBA without a mid-range shot, and he's going to have to, like they told him when he went and he had multiple tryouts this offseason, he's going to have to improve from the free throw line. And he went 3 for 3 in the red-white scrimmage. From the sounds of it, he's developed kind of a rhythm there and is feeling more confident. He's a guy that can help you win. I'll say that about him because he's a good passer. He's, for his size, 6'10", defends well, can get up and down the court, which would seem to work with the NBA. So maybe he finds a spot, but it's going to be tough. I mean, the NBA has changed, and you really have to be able to shoot to be on an NBA roster. So he's going to have to prove he can do that this season. But Greg Gard said this too down in Chicago. It's really easy to look at what Ethan Happ can't do.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's not forget what he can do. And here's a guy that's a preseason All-American for a reason, and he's going to end his UW career top 5 in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. I mean, basically the top 5 categories. He's going to kind of establish himself in the top 5, assuming he stays healthy this year. And so he's really had a brilliant career here, and I know he hopes he can kind of cap it off with a season not only individually that's good, but he wants to take this team and really help them rebound from last season.
Yeah. Good job getting info on that secret scrimmage against Iowa State, too.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of all the rage this year is that all these secret scrimmages, and I got very minimal amount of info. And, the thing I think I replied to a couple people yesterday is it's really easy to look at a secret scrimmage score and get excited or not excited, and you really have to have some context to it. I wasn't there, so I can't tell you if they played well and won by 16 or if they played poorly and won by 16 or if Iowa State even cared. I know Iowa State was really banged up.
Yeah.
Last year, Wisconsin beat Missouri in a secret scrimmage with Michael Porter, and I remember thinking, that's impressive. And then we also saw how last year turned out for Wisconsin. So you got to take these things with a grain of salt, and that's why, we'll see. Like I said, we're going to know. They go to Xavier in less than 2 weeks, or maybe it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from tomorrow. And the Bahamas will tell us a lot, and we'll kind of see how this team wins. They got to win some. They have to win some games early in the season, I think, to develop some confidence. That's key.
Yeah. All right, well, follow him on Twitter, again, at Jim Polzin, WSJ. Keep visiting madison.com for all your Badgers football and basketball news. Thanks for joining me, Jim.
Yep, thanks for having me.
What's going on, Kendric? How you doing?
Good, and you?
Good. Do you feel like have things settled down at all for you guys? I'm sure there was sort of like a shock from Saturday. Have you guys feel like you've kind of moved past it at this point? What is kind of the mood right now of the team?
Yeah, we kind of moved on from that game. We came in Sunday, kind of talked about what happened, what things we need to change, looked at the film, what things we can correct, and then after that we moved on because we can't go back and play that game. So there's no point of just dwelling on the past. It happened already. Look, move on to Rutgers this week. Try to win this game this week.
What is film session like after a game like that?
We just kind of watch. Coach picks out some clips that, some good plays we do, maybe some stuff we need to work on, or just clips he feels like we need to see from the game and how we can improve on those clips. Or he may show a touchdown or something, or a good catch or something like that. But most stuff is stuff that help us get better, stuff that we can improve on, so we don't kind of make those same mistakes next week.
It's not like a lot of yelling and screaming. It's just
it's just correct, like stuff we can correct. Maybe like if we kind of took like a better angle, maybe could have got this back core. Just showing, like things are like that. It's not really yelling like like that type of thing. It's just us correcting stuff, or he'll show like a couple good plays that we made in the game, or like I said, things that we can correct.
How do you feel like Jack did in his first start at quarterback?
I thought he did really good. First time being out there, he was kind of calm, cool, just kind of like practice. Just getting a play call, similar to the things we. It might have been a little faster for him because games are a little faster than practice. But for me, I think he did a good job for his first time starting out there.
Did you tell there were any nerves from his part or anything like that, or did he just kind of take it in stride?
Not really. I kind of just, like I said, kind of just like practice, him just getting the play call from the sideline, telling us, and then him just going through his reads and stuff, like making the right changes, giving us the signals, killing the play and changing it to something else. Like I think he did a real good job of doing that.
What's the difference between him and Alex? Is there a whole lot of difference when Jack's out there versus Alex?
Not really. Alex has started like 31 of like however many games. So like experience does matter because like I'm not the same player I was last year. Like JT's not the same player he was last year. AJ then like as you get older, you get experience, and like some of the mistakes you make, like some of the mistakes I made last year, I don't make those same mistakes this year. So that part there is going to be a difference between that part because that was his first start, and Alex has started like almost every game of his career. So you can tell that difference. You can tell like the difference between that, but you can kind of tell the difference between that. But other than that, it's both of them just like being composed and just being calm out there and just getting the play calling, like reading through the coverages or making the right reads, checks, and like killing the play when they have to.
Yeah. When a guy in his first start has a play like the fumble he had, do you say anything to him? Do you try to like pick him up after something like that?
Just don't. Hey, the play's over. Like no reason to. I kind of want to try to have like a fast memory. A short memory.
Yeah.
Because if you dwell on something, it mess you up for like the whole game. Like for instance, if I just drop a pass, every time I got I'm always thinking about, I dropped that last pass. It's gonna mess with my head for like further passes that may come my way. So kind of just tell them like, hey, it happened already. Like there's no point of you like dwelling on it because we're still gonna have to go back out there, and you're gonna have to go back out there. Well, I didn't say that to him, but like we were gonna have to go back out there on offense and like play more plays. And if you're dwelling on that play, that could mess up your rhythm or just mess up anybody. If you're dwelling on a play that happened in the past, that can mess up for the plays in the future. So I just kind of told him just keep a short memory. It happened. Like it happened already. There's no reason for you to like beat yourself up about it. Like you can't change it. Like, there's nothing you can change about that. So no point of just sitting on that. Just move on to the next play. Like we got your back. We always gonna be there for you. Just things like that.
Does it mess you up at all as a receiver to go from a left-handed quarterback to a right-handed quarterback? I know the rotations opposite and things like that. Not really.
There's a little difference, but it's not that much of a difference because we kind of switch. They kind of like switch off in practice. It's like you'll get work with both quarterbacks, but there's a little bit of difference between like a right-handed quarterback because my quarterback in high school was right-handed, and then like now my quarterback. Our quarterbacks, Alex is left and Jack is right. So I'm kind of used to both now. But I know at first when I first came in, it was a little different. Like the ball coming from a lefty versus coming from a righty.
That first throw from Alex, you're like, whoa, what's going on here?
It's a little different, but after a while, I feel like as a receiver, you got to catch it regardless. However the ball comes out, it's your job to catch it regardless. So it's kind of after a while, I got kind of used to the balls coming out.
You guys haven't had a situation in a long time where, at least since you've been here, where you don't control your own destiny in the West. What is that feeling like to know that like you're going to have to count on some other teams losing games? And I know you try to only focus on yourself, but is that kind of hard to swallow?
Yeah, we do want to go to the Big Ten championship. I know it may be out of our control, but we're still going to really we still have to focus on us because if we don't win like our next couple of games or whatever, we may not be able to go anywhere regardless of something happening, like if another team loses or whatever that case may be. So it's still kind of focused on ourselves, but I mean, you still want to make the Big Ten, so you do like hope like things happen where you can still make it, but it's not something I think about like every day. Like, oh, I need them to beat them, so we can. Because if, like I said, if we don't win our games, we're not even in the conversation with Big Ten West to get to the Big Ten championship. So I feel like we still have to win our games, but I mean, we do hope, like, well, I hope like we still can make it to the Big Ten championship. Like if some things happen, so we can still make it. But like I said, it's not something I think of. Like that's something that's on my mind like every day. Like, oh, I need this team to lose and this team to like, beat them in order for us to make it.
You're going to be sort of watching the other games, though.
Yeah, I mean, I do that anyway. I kind of watch, like, whenever, if we're not playing, like, I always like to watch good games. You know, you can kind of, like, look at the receivers. Like, me personally, just look at receivers, DBs, or, like, who's supposed to be, like, the top receiver in the country. Kind of watch them, see what they do. Just, like I said, I like watching football games in general. So if there's a good game on, I'm probably gonna watch it.
All right, thank Kendrick.
You're welcome.
That's going to do it for this week. A big thanks to Jim and Kendrick for coming on the podcast. We are going to do another episode on Friday. If you're not familiar with the Red Zone, we do our mailbag episode every Friday during the season. So make sure you tweet me at Jason_Galloway to get a question for that, and I'll make sure I answer it on Friday's show. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the Red Zone on iTunes or Google Play. And, of course, keep visiting madison.com for all of your Badgers football coverage. Thanks for listening.